Starting us up on Rumble. We are live. Good morning. Hello and welcome to This Date in History, aka TDH. This show is about interesting and important events that happen on, this calendar date throughout the annals of recorded history. I'm A.O. Xander.
Golden Loon.
Killer G here.
Yep. And of course, you viewer are you. Thank you so much for coming in and joining us. Whether you're watching us live or at some other point in the space-time continuum is irrelevant. A view is a view, as I always say. Today is Moon's Day, aka Monday, May 26, 2025. Let's start off in the history today, shall we? Starting us off of main source, actually, here. In the year 17... Germanicus celebrated a triumph in Rome for his victories over the Cherusci, Chatti, and other German tribes west of the Elbe. The Elbe River, I believe, right? The Elbe? That's
sure.
A river? No. 451 here, the Battle of Aveire between Armenian rebels and the Sassanid, the Sasanian Empire, took place. The Armenians were defeated militarily, but were guaranteed freedom to openly practice Christianity. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah, that is.
You lost, but you're still open to practice your religion. That's swanky right there. So
that's good.
Yeah, 553. Moon Jaguar became the 10th ruler of the Maya city of Copan, which is in modern Honduras, and will reign for 25 years. So normally that'd be a nothing article, but we don't really talk about Mesoamerican history that often on this show, so I decided to just put that in there, especially because I really like that type of history.
And you got mooned.
946, England was left temporarily without a monarch after the death of King Edmund I in a street fight, resulting in Edmund's brother Eadred assuming the throne for the minority of Edmund's two sons. Okay. Well, I never thought, a king getting into a street fight and dying, and then now there's no leader, or ruler or whatever. Yeah. So that's a bit dangerous there. Moving on up to 961, German King Otto II was crowned. Okay, from our main source, whatever, that's a nothing article. But from the other source we use, King Otto I elected his 6-year-old son Otto II as heir apparent and co-ruler of the East Frankish Kingdom. He was crowned at Aachen and placed under the tutelage of his grandmother Matilda. That's a lot more substantial.
So he was there till he grew up, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess
co-ruler.
Yeah.
But at 6, you're not going to rule much.
No, but you know, maybe policies. You're going to say something, Killer?
No, I agree with you. I was talking about the Eiffel large.
Oh, yeah. 1293 here, an earthquake struck Kamakura, Kanagawa, Japan, killing about 23,000 people.
Wow.
Woo! That's a lot of people.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you increase your outbound or something? You're a little low, Sir Killer.
On the lower one.
Oh, there you go. That's better.
Way better.
Yeah. Now you're low again.
Yeah.
Oh no, now you're better. You got to maybe broadcast your voice a little bit louder or something. I'm not sure. Oh.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Yeah, what you just did now was great. 1328 here. William of Ockham was forced to flee from Avignon by Pope John the 22nd. From our other source here, William of Ockham, the Franciscan Minister General Michael of Cesena, and 2 other Franciscan leaders secretly left Avignon, fearing a death sentence from Pope John the 22nd. And if
that's whole weird. A death sentence from the Pope.
Well, I'm just thinking, if the Pope is putting people to death sentences, that sounds as unchristian and ungodly as you can get.
Of course that's ungodly. That's unholy.
Yeah. So, of course he has that power, but he should not exercise it. He's not God. He's just the mouthpiece of him.
I never considered the Pope having the power to sentence someone to death.
Here we go. Moving on up to 1526, 4 remaining ships of the Spanish Laosa expedition sailed into the Pacific Ocean, soon to be separated in a storm. Only one will successfully cross to reach the Spice Islands. So 25%.
So the others sink? Or they just turn back?
I don't know. They didn't arrive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe they sunk. Well, they got separated, right? It said separated in a storm?
In a storm.
Yeah, so I presume they got sunk. 1637, the Mystic Massacre in the first battle of the my stupid glasses won't stop being smudged. In the first battle of the Pequot War in Connecticut, about 500 Pequot Native Americans were killed by colonial forces. You know, those damn colonials.
I know.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a foxhole joke. Like, there's two factions. There's the Wardens and the Colonials. And, you know, I'm, of course, a Warden, and I'm, those damn Colonials, you know, those baby eaters. But, yeah. But from our other source here, it says the Pequot War, a combined English and Mohegan force under John Mason attacked a village in Connecticut, massacring approximately 500 Pequots. That's not good. 1644, Portuguese Restoration War. Portuguese and Spanish forces both claimed victory in the Battle of Montijo. I don't know how you can do that, but somebody had to have lost. So, kind of reminds me, though... Sorry?
Somebody had to lose.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminds me, like the Battle of the Ironclads in the Civil War. You know, like you've seen that famous photograph of the North and the South, they're ironclads, fighting each other. And neither really gained any ground, and both sides claimed victory despite it being a legitimate stalemate. So, that was weird. 1647, Alcee Young became the first person executed as a witch in the American colonies when she was hanged in Hartford, Connecticut. And this is a picture of it right here, so poor lady.
Yeah.
But look at this guy. Like, he looks demonic. He's like, ooh! Like,
They borrowed your glass for a minute.
oh, yeah.
He's
Oh, thank you. Let's see here. 1647, Massachusetts disallowed priest access to colony. So, on the same calendar date, 1647 here, while this lady was getting hanged, due to religious extremism, Massachusetts, from Connecticut to Massachusetts, they're disallowing priest access to the colony. So, yeah.
Same year. Wow.
It's the same day.
Yeah.
Like, just, one border apart. You have one side of religious extremism and then the other side. Kind of crazy. 1770, the Orlov Report, a revolt, a first attempt to revolt against the Turks before the Greek War of Independence, ended in disaster for the Greeks. The Greeks and the Turks, the Greeks and the Persians always at each other's throat. Thank you, by the way, for cleaning my glasses. I appreciate it. 1781, Bank of North America incorporated in Philadelphia. Great, that's when we need a bank. But you see, 1781, like, we just started as a nation.
Yeah.
And they're already, like, the Rothschilds are just coming in with their clutches. 1783, a Great Jubilee Day was held in North Stratford in Connecticut, celebrated the end of fighting in the American Civil War. It's not Revolutionary War. Not Civil War would be another 80 years. The 80-year cycle.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because, Civil War was, 1860 to 1865. Yeah. Well, 80 years before that, we have 1783,
80 years after that, we had World War II.
Yeah. And in 80 years after that, we have now. Terrifying. 1790, the territory south of River Ohio was created by U.S. Congress. All right. 1796, French garrison of Fort Charlotte on island of St. Lucia surrendered to British forces. 2,780 mostly black prisoners of war boarded ships to England. So that has to have been, like, the French slaves or something?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. 1805, Lewis and Clark first sighted the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah.
And while that was going on, Napoleon Bonaparte was crowned King of Italy. From our other source here, it says Napoleon Bonaparte assumed the title of King of Italy and was crowned with the Iron Crown of Lombardy in Milan Cathedral, the Gothic Cathedral in Milan. Here's a picture of him wearing... I'm still trying to figure out what that word is. It's a Greek word. Not a Greek word. It's a Roman word. Like the Roman... What's that crown? Like, you know what? Let me look this up here really quick. Roman crown of leaves. There's a word for it. Civic crown? No. Reason crown? Laurel. I don't know. What, is it a laurel?
I have no idea.
There's a word for it. I just can't remember it for the life of me. So, anyway, 1822, at least 113 people died in the Grove Church fire, the biggest fire disaster in Norway's history. Well, thankfully, that's not a record they're trying to break.
No.
Yeah. 1824, Brazil is recognized by the U.S. That's pretty cool.
Brazil is recognized by the U.S. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
1828, a mysterious feral child, Caspar Hauser, was discovered wandering the streets of Nuremberg. And here's a photo of him. I surmise...
What's the significance of that?
Well, he's a feral child.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, a child that was, what feral means? A feral cat in the wild?
No.
Okay, well, here, let me look at this up, actually. What is a feral child? This has happened multiple times. A feral child is a young individual who has lived isolated from human contact from a very young age, with little or no experience of human care, social behavior, or language. Such children lack the basics of primary or secondary socialization. The term is used to refer to children who have suffered severe abuse or trauma before being abandoned or running away. They are sometimes the subjects of folklore and legends, often portrayed as having been raised by animals. While there are many cases of children being found in proximity to wild animals, there are no eyewitness accounts of animals feeding human children. So you remember Mowgli from the Jungle Book?
Yeah.
He would be a feral child.
Yeah. Okay.
Like in the wild.
Yeah.
So this is just some kid who, for whatever reason, was just left alone to his own devices, and was discovered just wandering the streets of Nuremberg. So this happened before, and this picture here obviously has been cleaned up, but that's him right there. So let's see. In 1854, William and Frederick Langenheim took 8 sequential photographs of the first total eclipse of the sun visible in North America since the invention of photography. And here they are, right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's cool.
Actually, that's 7. Where's the 8th one? Whatever. 7 out of 8 is better than 6. So, that's pretty good. First photographs of lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
Or solar eclipse or whatever.
Solar eclipse.
Solar
I think
eclipse.
it is. Yeah.
Total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah.
Total eclipse of the heart. 1857, U.S. slave Dred Scott and family freed by owner Henry Taylor Blow, only 3 months after U.S. courts ruled against them in Dred Scott versus Stanford. And I if I remember this correctly, this is the same thing I was just thinking of. Like, there is, I think this is the same one where he was mandated by law to keep the slaves, but he didn't have to treat them as slaves. But they were still his property or something.
You had no
something
choice.
like that. Yeah, which is kind of bogus, know? Like, so you're saying that I have the right to do with my property as I wish, but I can't relinquish it? How does that make sense?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know?
That doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. 1860, Giuseppe Garibaldi occupied Palermo, Italy, and a lot of people don't, people would see this and be like, okay, whatever, he occupied Palermo. But Giuseppe Garibaldi, massive name in Italian history. We all know about the Roman Empire, but that's the first unification of Italy. Rome unified Italy under itself.
Yeah.
And then eventually, it dispersed again, everything. This Giuseppe Garibaldi gentleman here, it says unifier of Italy. He unified Italy in more recent times and made Italy what it is today, as we still know. And this is when he took Palermo, which is the city in Sicily.
Yeah.
1861, Union blockades towns of New Orleans and Mobile in Alabama.
What was that again?
The Union Army blockades the town.
Yeah,
so this is around the start of the Civil War, actually, because we have here 1861, the U.S. Postmaster General Blair announced end of postal connection with South. Okay. So I think that would be one of the
breaking up and starting to.
Yeah, well, that would be one of the first things to go is the mail service. So, 1864, the territory of Montana was formed. Pretty cool. And Montana was organized as a U.S. territory. In 1865, the U.S. Civil War, Battle of Galveston in Texas, Confederate General Edmund Kirby Smith negotiated a surrender. From our other source here, it says, conclusion of the American Civil War, the Confederate General Edmund Kirby Smith, commander of the Trans-Mississippi Division, was the last full general of the Confederate Army to surrender at Galveston, Texas. All right. Here's our Montana being a territory. And here's the general. So this has to be Smith because, the grays were the Confederates and the blues were the Unions. 1868, U.S. President Andrew Johnson was acquitted by the Senate by 1 vote during his impeachment trial. So we were talking about this the other day. Remember, there was a discrepancy. It says that he was indicted, but from one source, and the other source says he was acquitted.
Yeah.
So this answers the question. He was indicted, but then he was later acquitted.
That's what I.
As you said.
All right.
That's wild, though. Like, a founding father of this country being accused of working against the very thing that he built. Kind of stupid. But there was a little bit of merit, because things weren't going the way he envisioned, so he was probably going to try to start another revolution. And in essence, that's what the whole Civil War was about. Actually, 1868, Andrew Johnson. Well, I guess he was a general in the Civil War. I don't know. He wasn't a founding father, because he must have been over 100 years old then. He couldn't have been a founding father, Andrew Johnson.
No, I guess I don't know.
So, well, anyway,
yeah,
1869, Boston University was chartered by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. All right. 1879, Russia and the United Kingdom signed the Treaty of Gandamak, establishing an Afghan state. And what's the state, you may ask? Well, Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of obvious, but yeah.
So the Russians and who?
The United Kingdom.
The United Kingdom, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
1887, racetrack betting became legal in New York State.
Woohoo.
1896, sorry? Okay.
Betting on the ponies.
Yeah. 1896, Dow Jones Industrial Average began with an average of 12 industrial stocks. The daily closing value is 40.9. From our other source here, it says Charles Dow published the first edition of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So happy birthday, cool. Legalized gambling with stocks. So the Dow Jones.
Yeah. Well, that's where England came from.
Yep. 1896 as well. The last Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II, was crowned. It says here Nicholas II was crowned as the last Tsar of Imperial Russia, and here he is. And
where the Bolsheviks got him.
Oh, yeah. Well, the whole thing about Anastasia and all that stuff. So, yeah. 1896, the worst streetcar disaster in North American history when part of Port Ellis Bridge collapsed, killing 55 people at Victoria Harbor, British Columbia.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. That's where you were at, Gordon. Somewhere around that area. That
right
province. That province
yes.
in Canada.
Well, no, that's up in Vancouver up there.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, what, Killer?
That's a place in Canada.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, he was born there. This guy here, he's a Canadian. Like, this man sitting next to me is one of those maple-loving moose people. So.
I'm one of those too.
Oh, hey, way to go.
Oh, God, I'm being surrounded.
You have no shot here.
This isn't a friendship. This is an invasion. Oh, God. 1897, Dracula by Irish author Bram Stoker was published by Archibald Constable and Company in London. Oh. Dracula, inspired by Vlad the Impaler. What country was he? Vlad the Impaler, Romania, right?
I don't know.
I believe he was Romanian. Oh.
Did he movie on Bram Stoker?
No, not Bram Stoker, but like the inspiration to Dracula was Vlad the Impaler, Count Dracula. 1898, San Francisco approved a city charter, allowed municipal ownership of utilities. Okay. 1899, lifts for the recently opened Eiffel Tower were ready, offering an option rather than the 1,710 steps for visitors to get to the top.
I wonder if you can still climb it by steps.
I presume
today,
so.
Or
if you
is
want.
that closed?
I mean, maybe they're not up to some kind of code because they're built hundreds of years ago.
That's what I'm wondering.
Would they be rusted out by now? Like, because it's all iron, right?
I would have liked to given that a shot when I was there.
Yeah, I'd like to give it a shot too myself. If it's safe, like I don't want to get any special permissions due to status or whatever for whatever reason, to be allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Like. 1900, the Thousand Days War, the Colombian Conservative Party turned the tide of war in their favor with victory against the Colombian Liberal Party in the Battle of Palo Negro. This makes me wonder, like, are these actual, like, political parties actually fighting?
War? That's what I was going to ask.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what it sounds like. So, like, can you imagine, something like, Trump and Biden getting into the octagon and duking? It's kind of the same energy. You know? Although we already know what the outcome of that's going to be. Who's more energetic? So,
Trump or Biden?
yeah. Or, Trump and Hillary, duking it out. I'd pay to see that. I would pay to see it. I have no money, but I'd find some to pay to see that. Oh. 1903, Ramon de la Pine, the longest-running newspaper by and about Aromanians until World War II was founded. Never heard about Aromanians, but hey, give them a little bit of a shout-out. So, 1906, Archaeological Institute of America forms. Okay. 2 years later, 1908, at Meshed Soliman in southwest Persia, the first major commercial oil strike in the Middle East was made. Rights acquired by the United Kingdom. How typical. We also have from our other source here, the first major commercial oil strike in the Middle East was made at Meshed Soliman in southwest Persia. The rights to the resource were quickly acquired by the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. So they found oil. And this is how the whole Middle East being oil rich and all this stuff started.
Yeah.
So, first major one. 1908 as well, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob Murdoch and their children became the first family to travel across the United States by car, Los Angeles to New York City in a Packard 30. The trip took 32 days, 5 hours, and 25 minutes.
A month.
A month. That is the road trip from hell. And the first thing I think of is that scene from Christmas Vacation with Clark Griswold, driving. Like kill me now. And then but you and Clark, you look very similar.
Thanks.
So it's a vacation from hell. I have a picture for it. I don't know. This is the picture from the oil. So
yes, the oil. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell it's in Arabic by the headwear there. He has one of those religious caps. That's not a helmet. Here, let me bigger this for us.
I don't know if that is or not.
That's too small to be a helmet. That's some kind of. Although it looks metallic by the shininess, I don't know.
I don't think that's religious.
I don't know.
What do you call it that they wrap around their head?
Well, no, it's not a turban or anything like that or whatever.
No, the turbans aren't.
But they have like they have like a large yarmulke or something. I don't know. Like there's a lot of various religious headwear around the world. But here's a picture of that road trip. So can you imagine over a month in that car, no top, no AC, you're just driving.
And the roads conditions, most of it dirt.
Yeah. And that was when you had to choke the engine and you probably had the crank. To get it started.
How did you get gas is what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, like back in those days, they were doing hydropower and all that stuff, and like a lot of the stuff that's coming out that is
probably
new.
Somewhere in there have cans of gas hanging out and water.
Probably, yeah. You needed water to top off, your radiator and all that stuff. So, and we're going to be getting to that here in a minute. 1913, Emily Duncan became Great Britain's first woman magistrate. Pretty cool.
And I think she ended up starting Dunkin' Donuts.
I don't think so. I don't think
What's
so.
that?
What do you say?
I said Dunkin' Donuts.
I haven't had a donut in a long time. I'd like to get some at some point. 1918, Georgian Social Democratic Republic declared independence from Russia. And yeah, we have the Democratic Republic of Georgia was established. Yeah. So, 1922, Vladimir Lenin suffered a stroke. That's not good.
No.
1923, the inaugural 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race for cars started through the public roads around Le Mans, France. Inaugural winners were André Lagache and René Léonard of France for Chenard and Walker, so it has to be some kind of company. From our other source, the first 24 Hours of Le Mans was held in France, ran annually in June thereafter. It became the oldest endurance racing event in the world. It's still going today, I believe.
Yes, it is.
This is a photo of it right here. So the first Le Mans.
24-hour Le Mans.
Yeah. 1924, U.S. President Calvin Coolidge signed immigration law restricting immigration.
One of my favorite presidents.
Yeah.
He wanted smaller government.
Yeah. Yeah, he sounds like a cool guy. Yeah.
Nope.
1925, 1 century ago,
Ooh.
Babe Ruth was finally out of bed 5 weeks after ulcer surgery.
5 weeks?
Yeah. Yikes. Well, I mean, the guy smoked and drank and partied,
Yeah.
and, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
like, what wasn't he fined one time for showing up late habitually for partying too much?
I don't know.
Like, I think we covered that. Another Oka here is future Baseball Hall of Fame center fielder Ty Cobb was the first to collect 1,000 extra base hits when he doubled in Detroit Tigers' 8-1 win against the Chicago White Sox at Comiskey Park. Ty Cobb, yeah, MLB legend. Right there. I just can't get over, like, look at that collar, like, you know, how the uniforms were different, like.
And wool too, man. Those things had to be itchy in the summer.
Screw that.
Wool
You know?
uniform in the summer.
Oh,
Wool.
yeah. 1927, we spoke about this yesterday. Henry Ford and the Ford Motor Company produced the last and 15th millionth Model T Ford / the Tin Lizzie.
Yeah. That's what it's called.
And we have here the last Ford Model T rolled off the assembly line after a production run of 15,007,003 vehicles. Now that's such a weird number. 15,007,003.
Yeah.
Like that's a odd number, but whatever. So, what else do we got here? Oh, whoops! I exited out of the history today, so I gotta scroll back up. 1930, Supreme Court ruled buying liquor does not violate the Constitution. How would it? What?
I don't know what the thinking was there.
That's kind of weird. So,
I know.
actually, that was.
Could have been. Was that
Would-
during?
That's right after Prohibition. Or maybe this was used to get rid of Prohibition. Because the Prohibition was during the 1920s, the Roaring Twenties. It was enacted in 1919.
It was enacted in 1919.
Either in
That seems
1919
too
or...
early.
Let me look.
Had to be after the Roaring
Was,
20s.
no, it was during the Roaring Twenties. Like, because remember, that's when Al
killed-
Capone and all that stuff. All the gangsters, the rum runners.
Yeah.
They were the 20s.
Yeah. No, I know.
And then the Great Depression was in the 30s. And in the
Okay,
40s.
well, I don't know
When was Prohibition enacted? Let's see here. Prohibition in the United States. Prohibition era was... Oh, yeah. The 18th Amendment was passed in 1919.
Whoa!
So from 1920 to 1933.
Wow, you nailed that.
Well, I am a historian. It's kind of my job. So,
Not,
yeah. So, yeah, maybe this is, trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, 1936, the House of Commons in Northern Ireland, Tommy Henderson began speaking on the appropriation bill. By the time he sat down in the early hours of the following morning, he had spoken for 10 hours. And that, gentlemen, is what is known as a filibuster.
Yeah.
What became known as a filibuster, if it hasn't already. 1936, that seems a little late to invent that thing. I'm pretty sure it was going around for a while before that. 2 years later, 1938, the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Un-American Activity forms. It sounds like it was the beginning of the anti-communist stuff.
Yeah, what's his name?
Well, way before McCarthy.
Yeah,
Oh.
it is, but it's that attitude,
Yeah.
McCarthyism,
Mhm.
type.
1940, the first successful helicopter flight in the U.S., Volt Sikorsky US-300, designed by Igor Skvorsky. And didn't we cover that the other day? Like the first mono-rotor helicopter. The same guy,
Something, yeah.
Igor Skvorsky. Oh, and it's the same picture. Remember this?
Yeah.
It's a triple rotor. But instead of a horizontal, instead of a vertical stabilization rotor, they had two horizontals.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1940, during World War II, Operation Dynamo in northern France, Allied forces began a massive evacuation from Dunkirk, France. The Battle of Dunkirk began simultaneously as Allied defenders fought to slow down the German offensive. And I want to play an excerpt from the movie Dunkirk because it is a great movie. But let's see here. I just want to play this one part here. So, the enemy have driven the British and French armies to the sea. Trapped at Dunkirk, they await their fate, hoping for deliverance, for a miracle. And you're just watching this. It's just quiet. I'll just show you the build up. They're just walking through the streets. They're dropping leaflets, demoralization campaign, and everything. This guy's reaching into a window to get a cigarette. This other guy was trying to empty a hose. This guy's gonna take a crap. He wants to. He's gathering toilet paper, essentially. just, all of a sudden just pop, 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 it's a very powerful movie. Oh, really good. I advise, going and watching it. But as far as openings are concerned, that's a really good opening to a movie right there. Because it's just quiet, there's nothing going on. All of a sudden, pop, 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 and people are just dropping, 1940 as well, during World War II, the Siege of Calais ended with the surrender of the British and French garrison. So, and then Calais, is the closest in the English Channel. Moving on up to 1941, aircraft from the HMS Ark Royal sighted the German battleship Bismarck. The pride of the Germanic Navy. We spoke about the Bismarck the other day when they sunk the hood.
Yeah.
So, 41 as well, the American flag house, or Betsy Ross's home, was given to the city of Philadelphia. And Betsy Ross, was the designer of the American flag, Stars and Stripes.
Now, is she the designer, or she made the first flag?
I don't know.
She made it. I don't think she designed it.
She
Maybe.
had something to do with it.
Well, no, I know.
She's the seamstress credited with creating the first American flag. So Betsy Ross has traditionally been credited with having sewn the first American flag, but in fact this is far from certain, and all that can be proved is that she was just one of a group of women in Philadelphia employed to make flags during and after the American Revolution. So very much like...
so sewing and creating are two different things.
Yeah, well, designing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very much like how Paul Revere gets all the credits, he was only one of dozens of people who did that job. But they had to put a name to an event.
Yeah.
And, she's the name of this event here. 1941, we got that one. German occupiers began youth labor. Not good. 1942, Belgian Jews were required by Nazis to wear a Jewish star. Not good. No.
Far from good.
Yeah.
Evil.
Yeah, it is evil, and it's it reminds me, like we spoke about this the other day while chilling and having coffee and everything, like how in modern times, this was just a couple years ago, they are talking about making people who did not have a certain substance put into them because of a certain kung flu.
Oh, the jab.
Well, I don't want to refer to immediate words because censorship and everything. YouTube is watching. But they wanted to have people wear distinguished marks who were not part of the program, and people were like, didn't the Germans do that to the Jews 80 years ago?
Yeah.
So
what they should have had for that was a little sew-on badge with a happy face.
Yeah.
That's your badge.
1943, Edwin Barclay of Liberia became the first president of a black country to visit the U.S. That is interesting. That is pretty cool.
Very, yes.
Yes.
What year again?
1943. 1948, entire Haganah armed forces sworn in as Israeli soldiers. That sounds scary. So, 1948 as well, the U.S. Congress...
They were just formed, and that was the year they were formed.
Yeah. But... why are they forming an armed force? Because they knew that
themselves.
Why?
Pretty hostile area. The people.
Why?
The surrounding countries didn't want them there.
Well, then maybe they shouldn't have been shoehorned into there. Think. 1948, the U.S. Congress passed Public Law 80-557, which permanently established the Civil Air Patrol as an auxiliary of the United States Air Force. Okay. 1956, a fire on board the aircraft carrier USS Bennington in Narragansett Bay off Rhode Island killed 103 crew. So that was an accident. 1959, MLB Pittsburgh Pirates Harvey Haddix pitched 12 perfect innings, lost in 13th to the Braves at Milwaukee County Stadium. Almost.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
12 innings he went and then lost?
Yeah, that's a heartbreak right there.
And perfect is not is more than a no-hitter.
Yeah. What's a perfect?
Perfect is nobody got on base. A no-hitter is nobody got a hit.
Nobody got a hit.
Somebody could have walked, something like that, got on an error.
Okay.
Yeah, one is no hits, and one is nobody's on base.
I mean, I'm having a difficult time trying to wrap that around my mind, but then again, I'm the guy who refers to the cycle as a line. I had to think about what it actually was called for a second, the cycle. Case in point, 1959, the wreck of the World War II bomber Lady Be Good in the Libyan desert was reached by a recovery team from the U.S. Air Force's Wheelus Air Force Base in Tripoli. The plane had crashed returning from an initial mission in 1943, so it was a World War II wreckage. And there's like a whole story behind it, like...
and this was in 59.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So this was 16 years?
Yeah, later.
Yeah. 1961, USAF bomber flew Atlantic in a record of just over 3 hours. Wow. So it flew the whole Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
So that's supersonic right there. It has to be. 1961, yeah.
I don't know about supersonic.
Well,
how many hours? 3 hours?
3 hours. That has to break the sound barrier.
Yeah.
So, 1963, Organization of African Unity forms. We spoke about that yesterday. Remember, it was confusing. Like it was formed by these several nations, but in like Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, if I remember correctly. So it was formed in there, but by these other nations.
Okay, yeah.
And it's African unity. So, yeah. 1966, a Buddhist set himself on fire at the U.S. consulate in Hue, South Vietnam, protesting that. Yeah. Powerful imagery right there. And actually, where are we with our... That's our thumbnail. Okay, so this was a picture of Dunkirk.
Yeah.
All the people lined up, trying to catch up with it. Okay, we're going to get to that one here in a minute. 1966, Guyana, formerly British Guyana, declared independence from the United Kingdom, and British Guyana gained independence, becoming Guyana. We spoke about this yesterday, I believe. Guyana. Did we speak about this yesterday, or am I having like a brain malfunction because...
I don't recall that.
Okay, I'm having a brain malfunction. 1967, EMI Rush released the Beatles album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in London and select markets in the UK. Prior to nationwide release, it would go on to number 1 for 15 weeks in the US and 22 weeks in the UK. Yeah. That's one hell of a cover right there.
It's a great album.
And like we have the Beatles are here twice. Right? They're over here on the left in their suits, and they're over here in the middle on their psychedelic suits. Let me bigger this image here.
I believe you're right.
I think they're in here twice. Because that's them on the left over here, right?
It looks like images of them.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
I
but
guess
like
it
these
is
are
them.
well. I
Yeah,
mean,
I guess it is them.
Well, they have images of a bunch of historical figures, like photoshopped before Photoshop was a thing. They were photo edited to be put in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think all of these people. But you have black and white photo cutouts
not.
and everything.
Of course not. That was all.
Yeah. Obviously, these are the Beatles here, but these look like the Beatles over here as well.
Well, they're dressed as the Beatles original.
Yeah.
And it probably is them, but it just doesn't quite look like them. I don't know why.
Huh.
It looks something like them, but not quite right.
I don't know. 1968, H. Dargan of Iceland, a traffic change from driving on the left to driving on the right overnight.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been a disaster.
What a mess.
Oh, jeez. Dude, oh my God, going back to Foxhole, the amount of people who don't know how to drive on the right side of the road drives me fucking crazy. Drive on the right side of the road. Logistics needs to get through,
Yeah, I remember when I was in England. You look at for cars coming. Man, tell your
story.
Look at this when they go wrong. Whoops, I'm looking the wrong way.
Tell your story from when you were in the hotel room.
Yeah, our hotel room had a big old window and you could open. It was really nice, and it was right on the bend of the road. And I'm looking out there, and the guy sitting in the driver's seat, which I would think
the left seat.
He's in the left seat where we normally drive. He's got his hands behind his back. He's kicked back and relaxing, and the car goes. I go, what the hell? So I realized, he's not driving.
It's just like you do a double take. It's like, wait, is it 2025? Does he have a Tesla self-driving automobile? What's going on? That must have been a sight. 1969, Apollo 10 astronauts return to Earth. Okay, that's a historically, big thing.
Yeah.
From our other source here, it says during the Apollo program, Apollo 10 returned to Earth after a successful 8-day test of all the components needed for the forthcoming first crewed moon landing. That's a lot more meat on that article right there.
Yeah. We landed on the moon in '69, didn't we? Same year.
Yeah.
Not today, obviously, but the same year.
Yeah. I'm going to go on a wing and say allegedly again. I mean, once again, I want to reiterate, highest likely case scenario, we did land on the moon, but all the footage from there got erased, because it's magnetic tape and there's solar radiation. There's no atmosphere, so they had to redo it, in the studio here on Earth, and that's why there's so much evidence of the moon landing being faked. The video is fake. The event is not. And that's the I'm just trying to.
The theory is conjecture.
Yeah. 1970, the Soviet Tupolev Tu-144 became the first commercial transport to exceed Mach 2. And that's what this aircraft is.
Yeah.
And it has the droop snoot. So,
yeah. It looks like the Concorde.
Yeah. 1972, U.S. President Richard Nixon, I am not a crook, and Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev signed the SALT Accord, the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty. Mm-hmm. And the United States of America and the Soviet Union signed the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty. So it's another name for that same thing. 1974, pardon me, during a David Cassidy concert at London's White City, a 14-year-old was trampled and died 4 days later. Yikes. So, all this concert stuff has been going on forever. Stampeding and all that stuff. 1975, Rhinestone Cowboy, single released by Glenn Campbell, got the Billboard Song of the Year that year, 1975. I don't think I've ever heard that song. I think I think Alice used to sing it every now and then. Just to.
You ever heard of Glenn Campbell?
No.
Wow.
But I just know of Rhinestone Cowboy, so that's why it's in here. 77, George Willig climbed the South Tower of New York City's World Trade Center, famously fined 1 cent for each of 110 stories he climbed. So he paid $1.10.
Yeah.
A bill and a dime. So, 1978, first legal gambling casino opened in Atlantic City. Now that's pretty interesting. How it's the same, as far as the calendar dates, not same year, but same calendar dates, as when track racing betting was legalized in New York. Remember?
Yeah.
We covered that not too long ago. 79, CBS Records released Frank Zappa's Dancing Fool single from his album Shake Your Booty. Oh, Shake Your Booty! Ha! Ha! I like that. That's a really good play on words there. It peaked at number 45, his biggest hit at the time. So, what was it? No, it's not Frank Zappa that you knew. It was Jim Morrison. Sorry, I thought you knew Frank Zappa for whatever reason. You knew Jim Morrison though. So.
Yeah.
1980, Soyuz 36 carried cosmonauts Valery Kubasnov and first Hungarian in space, Bertalan Farkas, to the Salyut 6. So the first Hungarian in space. That's pretty cool there. 81, Marine jet crashed on flight deck of USS Nimitz, killing 14. We have here an EA-6B Prowler crashed on the flight deck of the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz, killing 14 crewmen and injuring 45 others. Yikes. 81 as well, the Italian Prime Minister Arnaldo Forlani and his coalition cabinet resigned following a scandal over membership of the pseudo-Masonic lodge P2, Propaganda Do. He was part of a secret society. That's always, shady right there. 82, the British ship Atlantic conveyor carrying Chinook helicopters and destroyer HMS Coventry was hit in the Falkland War. 39 crew members died.
Jeez.
Yeah, well, they still could get hit. 83, the LA Lakers set NBA playoff game record of fewest free throws. But what was the fewest free throws? So it's not telling us.
Give us a number?
No, it doesn't tell us. Like I'll show it to you right here. Right here. LA Lakers set NBA playoff game record of fewest free throws.
How many?
I don't know. And I want to wonder. I'm wondering, what? Shaq wasn't around back then, so we can't blame it on him.
No.
So.
Well, no. Shaq had the fewest three. It doesn't say the fewest made. The fewest free throws. So they had 1 or 2 free throws for the whole game or something.
Well, it says here Minneapolis/Los Angeles Lakers accomplishments and records: fewest 3-point field goals per game, season 0.12 from the 82 to 83 season. Most free throws made. What's fewest free throw attempt? Fewest free throw attempts in an NBA playoff game. 1 in game 1. Okay. Okay. Well, give me a number. All right. Well. Okay. Well,
this is also for the Lakers too. So
okay. Oh.
That's
Well, no, the Lakers set NBA playoff game record, so it's not a team record. It's an overall record. But I can't find the number, so if anybody can let us know, that'd be great. We got to move on up here though. 1983, the 7.8 mega or MW, whatever the hell MW is, Sea of Japan earthquake shook northern Honshu with a maximum Mercalli intensity of 7, severe. A destructive tsunami was generated that left about 100 people dead. Yikes. 1984, U.S. President Ronald Reagan ruled out U.S. military intervention in the Iran-Iraq war. That came back to bite us in the ass. So, well, we intervened anyway in the 90s with Desert Shield and then Desert Storm.
Yeah,
so
but that's Iraq, not Iran and Iraq.
Yeah, but
we went after the wrong one. We should have gone after Iran instead of Iraq.
Well, some would argue we fought on the wrong side in World War II as well.
How can you figure that?
We fought against the wrong fascists. General Patton said that.
Which fascist should have we been? Oh,
Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have fought both Germany and Russia. They were both awful. So, 1986, the European Community adopted the European flag, and that's what this is here. So, good old EU right there, and that's the end of our pictures there. 1987, U.S. Supreme Court ruled dangerous defendants could be held without bail. But what constitutes a dangerous defendant?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Who decides that?
Yep. 1989, U.S. radio broadcasters go silent for 30 seconds at 7:42 a.m. in honor of the radio industry. I wonder if that's when radio was born, 7:42 a.m., 1889. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Oh, that's an interesting thing to look at. 1991, Zviad Gamskhurda became the first elected president of the Republic of Georgia in the post-Soviet era. All right. 1993, in Major League Baseball, Carlos Martinez famously hit a ball off Jose Canseco's head for a home run.
Oh,
There has to be video of this. Let me see if I can find it here.
It hit his head and then went over the fence. It was a home run.
Oh, here we go. So.
High fly ball right field deep. Canseco back to the track. Look it out. It is his head.
Bonk. Oh, that's great.
His head field deep. Canseco back to the track. Look it out. It is off his head.
Oh, that's
Now,
hilarious.
if it hit the wall and gone over, then it would have been a ground rule double. Because it just hit the player.
What was that? What was it? Naked Gun? Gun, baseball, bloopers. I don't think it was Naked. It was Naked Gun. Okay. Like I love this scene from the Naked Gun with baseball bloopers. No. Just randomly. My absolute favorite though. Well, yeah, of course. There's a guy who gets attacked by a tiger. My absolute favorite is this one here. Oh, whoops.
You would like that, of course.
I'm sick. 1996, parliamentary elections in Albania. Results were disputed with irregularities and intimidation causing opposition parties to withdraw. Pro-Western Democratic Party won over 50% of the votes. Pro-Western, this just reminds me, of our meddlings, in Ukraine, which has caused a problem that we're still living with today. So we got to stop interfering with other countries' crap. We don't like it when they stick their nose in our business, so why the hell do we think we can do that to them? Back off, U.S. 1998, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Ellis Island, the historic gateway for millions of immigrants, is mainly in the state of New Jersey, not New York. And I don't like that. I don't want them Jerseyans to get anything. Screw New Jersey. So. 1998 as well, the first National Sorry Day. You'd expect that to be held in Canada. Sorry. Was held in Australia, of all places. Reconciliation events were held nationally and attended by over 1 million people.
Oh, there's a Canadian cousin.
What?
Australia's a Canadian cousin.
How?
I don't know. I just threw that out
You
there.
can't say something like that without some kind of substantial...
They both have that English dialect somewhat.
So do we. Are we Australian and Canadian now? I mean, hell, like, I have a good friend who can speak pretty good English, and he lives out in Siberia. Shout out to you, Sweek. So, yeah, anyway. Does that make him an Australian?
Didn't say it makes them. Then I said they're cousins.
2002, the Mars Odyssey found signs of large ice deposits on the planet Mars. It's pretty big there.
Yeah.
And now it's being surmised that there's a lot of water underneath the crust, I believe, in Mars. There's it was either Mars or the Moon. I don't remember exactly what, but they're believing that there's a lot of porous rock. So there's a lot of water under the ground. Like,
sounds like Mars more than the Moon.
I believe it is the Mars. The Mars. Oh my God, my brain's turning into mush. The Mars. In 2003, only 3 days after a previous record, Sherpa Lapagilu climbed Mount Everest in 10 hours, 56 minutes. The Tourism Ministry of Nepal confirmed this record in July that year. How the hell... Like, what is he, sprinting up the side of the mountain? Like, how do you climb that in 10 hours? That takes...
I don't know. That's amazing.
I mean, was he halfway up? Like where was...
Sherpas, are those guys that carry all the crap.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, he's very familiar with it. And
yeah,
done it many times, so he's going to be in shape to do it. But 10 hours?
Yeah, but what's he doing it? Like, like...
Yeah.
He just looks through binoculars, you see a dust trail, there he is, 2004, the New York Times published admission of journalistic failings, claims its flawed reporting and lack of skepticism during build-up to 2003 Iraq war helped promote belief that Iraq possessed large stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. Yeah, that was all a giant bullshit lie.
The news here is New York Times actually admitted it did something wrong.
I know,
That is amazing. Put that in the headlines.
I know. Yeah, that's a once in a century dealing right there. Yeah. 2004 as well, the United States Army veteran Terry Nichols was found guilty of 161 state murder charges for helping carry out the Oklahoma City bombing.
Oh,
wow.
That's why the name was so familiar. Yeah. The Oklahoma City bombing guy.
Yep. 2006, the May 2006 Java earthquake killed over 5,700 people, leaving 200,000 homeless. 20% of 1 million homeless. Wow. 2008, severe flooding began in eastern and southern China that will ultimately cause 148 deaths and force the evacuation of 1.3 million. Wow. We were just talking about how crazy, like 200,000 homeless. Well, now we have 1.1 million above that, Jeez. 2012, Pope Benedict XVI's butler was arrested for allegedly leaking confidential documents. Ooh. Always the butler. You always have to give a side eye to good old Alfred now. So, 2013, Josh Whedon was awarded an honorary Doctor of Letters from Wesleyan University. Josh Whedon? Joss Whedon?
I don't know.
Whedon? Director, screenwriter, and producer. What the hell is a Doctor of Letters? Like, what, you master of the alphabet? Like, what does that mean? 2014, protests across Thailand in response to a military coup. General Pralit warns of a crackdown and if demonstrations continue. Well, you're only going to make things worse for yourself in that. Because at the end of the day, the people are the power. It doesn't matter if you're the president, if you're the dictator, if you're the king, the emperor, the despot, whatever it is, the people that you're governing over, they're the ones who rule you. Believe me. 2018, Ireland voted to repeal their 8th Amendment to allow legalized abortions, with 66.4 voting yes. So, or 66.4%.
Yesterday.
I don't think we talked about this, but we did talk about other things akin to this. There was a whole word salad. 2019, Ken Wyatt became Australia's first Aboriginal minister in government as a Minister for Indigenous Australians. Yeah, good show. Right there. And I just transitioned into Down Under for
I noticed.
2019, 9 climbers died in a week on Mount Everest after overcrowding led to a huge queue to reach the summit. So they were just waiting in line and they died. That's awful.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, to just see a line and you're waiting and then, that's it. Like, that sucks. 2020, protests triggered by the death of George Floyd erupted in Minneapolis, St. Paul, later becoming widespread across the U.S. and all around the world. And that's a whole mess. I don't even want to start talking about what I think of that crap. 2020, Twitter added warning labels to warn about inaccuracies in U.S. President Donald Trump's tweets for the first time. That's so dumb.
Yeah.
In 2021, Amazon said it will buy 97-year-old film and television studio Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MGM, for $8.45 billion.
Dude.
I hope it did not go through. 2021 as well, in a landmark case, oil giant Royal Dutch Shell ordered by a Hague court to cut its global carbon emissions by 45% by 2030. So you got 9 years. Yeah, that's going to happen. We also have 9 people were shot and killed by their colleague, a public transit employee in San Jose, California. And from our other source, it says 10 people were killed in a shooting at a VTA rail yard in San Jose, California, United States. So which is it, 9 or 10? Like,
Makes a big difference to the 10th person.
Yeah, it does. 2022, premiere of ABBA Voyage, a virtual concert with computer-generated images of the Swedish pop band and live musicians at the specially built 3,000-seat ABBA Arena in London, England. All 4 members, as well as the King and Queen of Sweden, attended. Well, that's weird, to see yourself play on stage as computer-generated images.
Yeah.
That must have been a trip. And last but not least, in 2024, just 1 year ago, a fire in a camp in Rafah, Gaza, for displaced Palestinians caused by an Israeli airstrike killed at least 35 people, mostly women and children. Well, of course, Israel is going to say, oh, well, they're harboring terrorists, whatever excuse they need to be genocidal lunatics, and everybody just eats it up. So, yes, people need to recognize Israel for the monsters they actually are. At the end of the day, both sides are awful. Stop the killing. Stop it. Just stop it. But that shall conclude the show. Please check the underbar of the description for any links that you may find interesting, including one limited to all things Omni Coalition. A lot of history has and continues to be made every day, and we can only bring you a portion. Please check our sources. For your dose of past events daily, we stream at 11 in the morning Pacific Time, which is 12 noon Mountain, 1 Central, and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, respectively. For all of you and all of us, I'm Ayo Xander.
Golden Loon. I don't think he's here.
I think he is here. Killer J?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're signing off here. Do you want to say your name?
Yeah, Killer G here.
Yep. And, of course, you viewer are you. And until you catch us next time, whenever that is, wherever that is, don't forget to look right and left at every intersection, rate 5 thumbs, and subscribe. Toodles!
Toodles.